Well, overtime might be difficult, but overtime victories are the sweetest. Are you ready for some good news? Sometimes life brings you adversity when you thought you'd already crossed the finish line. Maybe a lot of us are feeling that way during global pandemic, sheltering in place, the variety of ways that people have suffered. But when you feel like the finish line's been moved, it's sort of like overtime in a ball game. God's grace is there, and when you see Him at work in overtime, the victory's even sweeter. I was thinking about some years ago, I was pulling for my Baylor Bears while our son Bennett was a student at Baylor. And the basketball team was good that year. They had a 3-point lead with 3 seconds left in the game and the ball. All they had to do was throw the ball in bounds and the game would virtually be over. The only way they could have possibly gone into overtime or lost that game would be to throw it in, have the opponent intercept the ball somehow on the inbounds play, and then somehow heave a 3-point shot up with less than 2 seconds left and tie the game. Well, believe it or not, it's exactly what happened. I remember watching the TV. I was glued to the TV, and I just like, no! I'm pounding the pillows in the room, and I'm like, it can't happen like that. Have you ever experienced life like that, where you feel like I'm done with that? I have been doing this long enough, and then it's extended. When sheltering in place started, I thought we were going to miss 2 Sundays. It's now going to be 12 Sundays this coming Sunday. What I'm talking about is something that David experienced. He was called as a youth, anointed, filled with the Holy Spirit, but for years he had to run for his life from the evil King Saul. When it finally came time for David to take the throne, the Lord came to him and said, I want you to take the throne in Hebron. He didn't take the throne of all of Israel. It would be 7.5 more years before he'd have the full throne. I wonder what David felt like. It's the feeling we have when it feels like, I thought I'd arrived. And I want you to know that if you feel like you're in overtime, God's grace is there in the midst of it. And the sweetest victory you'll ever have is the one where you had to persevere all the way to the end. God's grace is there in overtime, and that's the gospel. Well, that's today's good news. You can get more like it by clicking right here, or better yet, please share with others, subscribe to this, and start out every day with good news.